Hello everyone and welcome to AC Spotlight. Today I'm joined by Sam Vandervoort, a TTRPG connoisseur. You may have caught them guest starring on Jason Meyer's Memester of the Week, Alt Haven's $2 creature feature, as well as maybe they're running their own content like Pest Control, as well as GenreSpace, the most recent piece of content. Welcome, Richard.
Hey, how's it going?
Sam. Sorry, but welcome
okay.
Regardless.
I was just gonna roll right through.
I know. Well, regardless, welcome. I'm really excited to have you here to learn more about GenreSpace, your latest actual play series currently in the works as we're talking at the moment. But before we actually get into sort of the deeper questions, do you mind telling me what your favorite tabletop snack of choice is?
Ooh, favorite tabletop snack of choice. Do drinks count?
I would say so. I mean, you're
Okay.
Yeah.
This is so strange, but before I run a tabletop session, if I'm like particularly stressed about something, I will go and get a boba from like a little boba place here in Los Angeles. And for some reason, something about that like sensory experience always puts me in the headspace of running a game.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, let's be real. That is a mixture of both drink and food.
True.
It puts you in the right headspace. I guess there is sort of like...
I don't know what it is.
Huh.
I think maybe it's just like the different textures or like, I don't know, something about it gets the brain working.
I wonder if it's the same concept that I used to hear a lot when I was in school, which is there was a certain point in school where they would tell you it's okay to chew gum because it would stimulate your mind.
Sure.
And you sort of have to focus a little more. Maybe that's the process. Because I'm very much of an oral fixation individual. Like if you give me anything that's like a sucker or something, I'm like immediately, my hand and mouth is immediately like sort of in process. But that could be a thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, makes sense to me.
You've been working on some content as of late. I would love to learn more about it. We were just talking about Pest Control, which is your previous actual play series, as well as what you currently are running right now, which is GenreSpace. Do you mind giving us a little teaser or information about both?
Yeah, so Pest Control was a show I did with some friends that is now on indefinite hiatus. Started in 2018 as a live stream through the Alt Haven Tabletop RPG Network. It was a Monster of the Week show that sort of followed different groups of characters each season throughout an interconnected world, and you'll find that this is a theme with me, as this is sort of similar ground that I am treading with my new project. We wrapped up that show last year when it went on hiatus, and yeah, I jumped pretty much right into doing something new. So GenreSpace is a brand new sci-fi anthology show. It's going to feature a rotating cast, a variety of indie tabletop game systems, and, you know, just folks having fun within this shared world. Our first season is called Death of the Magnate. It's a cyberpunk revenge story about four escapees of a sort of incredibly locked down asteroid prison who return to Earth in order to ruin the man that imprisoned them. The first episode of that goes up on June 7th, 2026. And let me tell you, we are... My goal with this series is to keep the campaigns pretty short, at least as far as actual play goes, somewhere in the 20 to 30 episode range, and then to shift somewhere else within the universe. I have a couple of ideas that I've been talking about with some other collaborators for future campaigns of the show that could go some very interesting places. So I'm super excited about also like getting to work with like some of the coolest people in the actual play space as far as I'm concerned. This first campaign features Draconics, who's just been like everywhere, incredible. They're an incredible performer. Features Logan the GM, who's doing great work over on Bloom and Blight. features Devin Nelson, who is on Oathsworn and KalazCon and is probably most well known for doing a couple of indie tabletop games, including Pale Dot. And Bird, who is a good friend of mine who also runs a show, a Kingdom show called the Story Players Cast. So yeah, really, really excited about the crew that I get to work with on this one. And also excited about where it's going to go.
Nice. I really love the fact that when it comes to the content you've made, especially with the ones that you've been sort of managing, producing, and sort of leading, is that I'm not sure if this was a conscious thought, but you very much are exploring other systems. Like the fact that you mentioned that GenreSpace, you have a plan to explore other systems as you sort of trek onto new stories within that same world. Is learning and showcasing indie systems and sort of lesser known projects and platforms important to you when it came to sort of creating GenreSpace?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a thought that I had. I like many people in the tabletop space and the actual play community, I think my first introduction to tabletop games was D&D. Back in middle school, I got kind of pulled into a game with some older kids and just kind of fell in love. I feel like, I think I've described it before as like, it kind of felt like my brain exploded. Like I was like, oh, you can do this. Like, this is crazy. And I started, playing D&D and had a really good time with it. And then, and as far as I was concerned at that point, D&D was what tabletop games were. That was the only tabletop game that existed. It was the only one I'd ever heard about, and that was the only one I really knew how to play. And then, I was lucky enough to get to have some friends that were interested in other games, got pulled into some home games, pulled into a live stream show of Kids on Bikes.
Yes.
And eventually, Kids on Bikes, great system.
I love this system.
And then decided, hey, I'd like to take a crack at this. I heard the Adventure Zone running Monster of the Week in their second season. And I was like, oh my God, this system was made for me. This is really like, the urban fantasy kind of cryptid aesthetic has been a particular favorite of mine for a long time. And so I was like, oh my God, I could do this. And I started running what became Pest Control. And since then, I have just kind of had my mind opened up to the number of systems that are out there, and all of the different ways that they can tell interesting, unique stories that maybe wouldn't be as possible through D&D, or would be worse served running.
It would require a lot of elbow grease, or
D&D will always have a special place in my heart as being the kind of thing that showed me that this was all out there. But yeah, I just, the number of games that are out there, I like to tell people, who I'm introducing to tabletop games, like, there is a game for any genre. Mm-hmm. If you like romance stuff, there's Good Society. If you like mech games, there's Beam Saber. If you want to play a bank heist, go play Blades in the Dark. If you want to do a world building game, go check out The Ground itself. If you want to really get into the gore and the blood and the nitty gritty and frankly the kind of hilarity of horror, go check out Heart the City Beneath. I mean, it's just there's so many systems out there, and D&D is wonderful, but there's plenty of other people sort of covering it already. I didn't really feel the need to cover it myself. I'd rather sort of spotlight these games that maybe people haven't heard as much about, or haven't heard played, and try to showcase them in a unique way, a fun way, a way that maybe even inspires people to go play them for themselves.
I love that. Yeah, I think I kind of there's sort of a goal with definitely behind the action, which is showcasing and putting a spotlight on sort of lesser known systems. And I think the work that you're doing, especially making a creative aspect of it that can be enjoyed, and kind of much like how you were inspired by other actual plays, definitely D&D sort of taking the mainstream, but taking that concept and utilizing it for more indie or more lesser known systems, which you really love. You covered a lot in those two answers, but I think something that I just want to clarify, because it sounds like to me that you graduated from the player seat to the GM screen, behind the GM screen. It didn't sound like you were thrown into the deep end.
Yeah, so it's funny. I think I've sort of always been a GM at heart, but my first foray into the actual play space was as a player. I like I said, was lucky enough to get pulled onto a show called Hijinks and Handlebars, where I played a character named Teddy Thompson for several years as a live stream on Althaven. And I think that was a really formative experience for me in terms of tabletop games. I think it really not only showed me, gave me more experience with another system, with a system that wasn't D&D, but also let me lean into the kind of dramatic role of being a player. I found it really, really wonderful and really creative and really sort of creatively invigorating. And it felt frankly, sort of built the platform for me to be able to then move into the GM seat comfortably, and sort of go from there.
There's this thought process I have, especially when it comes to players who are interested or at least dipping their toes or wanting to sort of try it out for the GM screen, is I have this idea that if you are a player and you love to make intricate backgrounds for a character, then you're probably GM material, or at least you have this, you can jump right into it. Because if you can weave a story out of one person, you do that 2-3 more times, and immediately you got an arc.
That's a campaign setting.
You immediately have something set. But speaking of arcs, I honestly do appreciate. I love it when actual play series have in mind that there is a notable stop period, notable end goal. The fact that you are trying to run 10, 15, 20 series with about that many episodes, I think is well desired and well liked, because it does sort of feel like there is a finality and it doesn't go on forever. It also doesn't tell players or audience members, stick with us for 4 years, and then you'll understand what's happening. You can jump in and realize that there's only maybe 10 episodes prior to you to actually get caught.
Yeah. I mean, all love to my fellow actual play producers who are doing 150 episode seasons.
Oh yeah, much love.
That's
you guys
incredible work. So cool. As I've gotten older, I have just realized I want a story that ends. I want to be able to tell the end of a story, with the people that I set out to make it with, and that was really important to me going into GenreSpace. And the other thing, frankly, that was important to me was respecting my players' time. Asking someone to take part in 20 episodes is very different than asking someone to come on and just be like, I don't know, maybe we'll be done in 10 years.
I own your Sunday now. This is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. I just, like I said, I really respect the folks that I've brought on to this first season of GenreSpace, and I also want the opportunity to be able to go out to people, in future campaigns and future seasons, and be like, look, this is what you're signing up for. This is kind of the end of it. We know where the end is going to be. I mean, there's a reason that I called the first campaign of this new show Death of the Magnate, sort of spoiling the ending. You know what I mean? You kind of know what's coming.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, I wanted to respect the players' time that they were devoting to this. I didn't want to just start a show that was kind of going to be like, oh well, we're done when we're done. Maybe we'll get to the end, maybe we won't. I think a lot of actual plays fall into the trap of saying we are just going to tell this story and we'll find the ending later. We'll find it somewhere in there, which is great and can lead to some really beautiful, wonderful stories, but can also lead to, what happens with a lot of actual plays, and something I've experienced myself, which is like, you get to a certain point, people's schedules change, things come up, and you have to leave things behind. I'd much rather tell a story with an ending.
No, that makes sense. And usually I ask my sort of guests here of where they find their players. We've already kind of touched upon that you've met these, they are creators. You've met them already. Some of them are already existing friends. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit. For other individuals who are thinking to create their own actual play, how important, and in sort of connection with that, how underutilized is networking within the tabletop community?
Oh my God, you have to talk to everybody else. I think I made this mistake for a long time of kind of trying to
be an island.
Yeah, be an island. Yeah, you start making maybe you start making a show with your friends, right? And you do that for a while, and it's just you kind of feel like, oh well, I have to learn everything myself. I have to try everything individually. There's like you said, like an island in the middle of the internet here.
Yeah.
And I got the opportunity in 2025. I was nominated for a Crit Award for Best Indie GM. Thank you. Yeah. I didn't win. A much better GM than me won, but
I mean, nomination
she's wonderful.
An achievement regardless.
Yes, yeah, I felt very lucky to have been nominated, and I also got to go to a little mixer event here in Los Angeles for the nominees and sort of the Crit Awards folks, and I met so many like amazing, wonderful people there, and it just like filled me with this feeling of like, oh my God, there's so many people doing this stuff. There's so many resources out there. There's so many people that have like tried things and had them work or not or whatever. And there's so many people I want to play games with, like so many people that I was like, oh my God, how do I get myself in a game with you? How do I make this happen? And I think that frankly, I think that evening was a real driving force behind the creation of GenreSpace and the idea of like doing rotating casts between the different campaigns, because there's just so many people that I want to play games with.
Yeah, I think it's very much it opens your eyes on how invited the community is, and how open it is. I think it's something that for those who are creating their own actual play and thinking, well, it's me and my friends, and hopefully we produce content and that's going to be it. That's sort of the end all. Talking is also just as important, which is actually really, really funny. I want to bring down some grounding here when it comes to creating your actual play, because there's a lot more than just getting like if you were just do a home game, it's a lot easier. You get a bunch of people to a table, or digitally you sort of get into a call and then you run your game. There is sort of extra layers when you're doing an actual play, all sort of the minute details that people don't talk about, like getting your audio settings correctly. Even before we started recording, Sam, me and you were like, hey, do you want me to record? It's like, we thought about this. This is something that instinctually starts to come up in your mind. For those who are thinking of starting their own actual play, what are there any sort of like small minute details that you would want to emphasize? Like tell people like, hey, don't forget about XYZ when making your show.
Find a quiet room.
That's, I mean, I mean, people make makeshift booths in their closet, so
yes, can be a challenge. That I totally understand. I am, my wife and I share. I just got married, which is awesome. My wife is wonderful. She's actually helping us produce GenreSpace, which has been an absolute blast. But we share an office space together. So there is some negotiation in terms of like, okay, well, I need Saturday mornings to do this, and we kind of have to finagle our schedule together. But it's really important. I think something that turns people off of listening to a new show is audio quality, and that doesn't mean you have to go buy a $600 microphone and a $1,200 interface, and
it just means wherever your focus is.
XLRs.
It's like wherever your focus is when it comes to the production. Focus more on audio than visuals.
Yes. It is so much easier to just get clean audio before, like when it's going into the microphone, than trying for hours afterwards to try and fix bad audio. To that end also, consistency. That is like a huge thing. I can't tell you how many actual play shows that I've started listening to and been like, wow, this is wonderful. I really, I'm really excited about this. And then they don't publish an episode for 2 months.
Oh.
And I forget about them. And it's not like that is no fault of anyone involved. But I think sometimes people who are starting actual plays hold themselves to a standard that they can't fulfill. And my advice to everyone is like, when I say consistency, I'm not saying you must publish an episode every week. I'm saying find a schedule that works for you to be able to publish.
Find your own cadence.
Find your own cadence, exactly. If that is once a month, if that is once a year, that's fine. But you got to find that sort of consistency and stick to it as much as you can. Now, obviously, life gets in the way. Very few of us are doing this for, as our primary source of income. So you have to sort of be able to navigate, like, how much work do I want to? Am I capable of putting into this? But yeah, that's what I would say. The other thing, that I'm finding. As I produce more actual play and meet more folks involved, is like, I really do think chemistry is so important. And trying to, even doing an episode or two, a session 0, before you finalize who's going to be in the cast, just making sure that everyone's comfortable with each other, everyone's able to play off of each other well, everyone's excited by the ideas that everyone, that the other players are bringing to the table. That's huge. That's huge. Sorry, give me 1 second. My wife just came in.
No, I'm just looking for my computer charger.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
The power of editing. I'm gonna do this just for my
power of editing. Yeah.
Ah! That way I know when I'm sifting through. I'm like, I remember now.
Not this. But yeah, it's just like, it's so important to find people. There's so many different types of DMs, of players, of collaborators, creative collaborators on projects like this, and just because someone doesn't vibe with you or other players or the system or whatever, it doesn't mean that they're a bad player or that they are wrong or whatever. But I do think finding people who are kind of on the same page, who are interested in moving in the same direction, is really important. And I want to call out, I specifically have been thinking about this a lot in the wake of hearing them talk about it for Transplanar, which is a great actual play. If you've not heard it, you should definitely go check it out.
We followed them.
They're fantastic. And I was listening to an episode that I think one of their players did on some interview that they did where they were talking about, going into a big series and doing a bunch of chemistry tests, to make sure that everybody was gonna be moving in the same direction. Just like with, actors in a rom-com, like you want to be able to feel that there is connection between those people, even if they've never played before. And so you might already have that with your friends if you're sitting at home, work on an actual play, or you might need to do a couple sessions and find the people that are going to want to tell the kind of story that you want to tell.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's very important, and that sort of speaks true to a lot of beyond just produced content and things that are meant for entertainment. Because I think definitely having the flow between players and GMs is important, not only for the table at large, but also for the audience viewing it. I think it's also very important to have this sort of same concept for for games that are for home as well.
100%. Yes.
So something I failed to mention during the introduction of you, Sam, is that I only failed to do it for the shock and awe of the reveal, is that you're also a writer and creator of several one-shots and systems. And we're only scratching the surface with these names like Find Your Way Home, The Night of the Red Star, The Wrong Door. Again, that's only scratching the surface. When you start to write down these concepts and ideas for stories, do you have like a common space that you pull ideas from, or are these from like a hodgepodge of concepts?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think let me zoom out the camera for just a second and say I have a creative philosophy that I'm not sure if other people feel or not. I'd love to get your perspective actually, but something I've felt for I think since I was a kid was like I can only really consume and be invested in a type of art for so long before I need to try it. And I found this to be true. I thought for a long time when I was a kid I would be an author because I really loved reading and I was consuming all of these fantasy novels and like bumping into people in the school hallways as I was reading Aragon or whatever, and have done some writing towards that end in my time, and I found that I sort of came to a similar place with tabletop games. I've played a lot of tabletop games in the last 10 years. And I kind of was like, well, I gotta try my hand at it. I gotta at least see what this is like. I still consider myself a pretty novice game designer. But I think the thing that I'm most interested in is there's sort of a vibe that I think the best tabletop games capture. I found this when I first started playing Monster of the Week, where it was such a good genre emulation of things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, of things like Supernatural, this kind of media that I had taken in for a long time, and no other game system quite gave me that feeling. Similarly, it's like Blades in the Dark. Like nothing else made me feel like I was in a heist. Like Blades in the Dark
is the only system that I say you are. It is a stressful fun game. You are happy that you're stressed.
Yes, and we're playing the first season of GenreSpace is in Court of Blades, which is a Forge in the Dark.
So cool.
So, yeah. Man. It's sick. It's Cyberpunk Court of Blades. So there you go. There's the 3-word pitch.
There you go. That's the elevator pitch.
Yeah. But no, I think that is something I have tried to emulate in my game design work. You mentioned Find Your Way Home. I was thinking a lot about the stories people tell when they come back from a journey, and about how I don't know that I've seen a game that emulates that. And so I was like, well, let me see if I can write something that would give you the feeling of like, you know, you're in the tavern after the adventure, telling, you know, the gathered crowd about the dragon that you slayed and the chasm that you crossed, all of this kind of stuff, and the melancholy of, you know, not knowing if you would find your way home, and then the hope of getting there. I have sort of pitched Find Your Way Home as a bad solo game, because you can play it solo, but I think it is best if you play it with a couple of other players who serve as the audience members, who you are sort of telling
They're reacting
the
to
story
the
of this
story being
adventure.
told.
Exactly. Yeah. Because I think that's a big part of like the vibe of that kind of moment, the thing that I was trying to emulate. As far as the other systems, you know, I have some arcs from Pest Control that I have adapted into Monster of the Week mysteries. Similarly, I regularly run games on Start Playing, and have begun turning some of those mysteries into things that you can run at your own table, which has been a really fun sort of adaptation process of like, how can I take this arc that we did for the show, or this thing that I ran for, you know, this tight group of people, and turn it into something that you can bring to the table and say and have a similar experience.
Very cool. Well, Sam, you are a brimming light of creativity and expansion of all of your sort of expressions and projects here. So I want to thank you so much for not only sharing your experience, your advice, and your adventures with me, but also with the internet at large. Do you mind telling people where they can find you and where they can find your recent projects?
Yeah, you can find me and all of my myriad links at laggardson.card.co. That is laggardson.card, which is CARRD.co. You can also find GenreSpace, my upcoming sci-fi anthology show, on Instagram or on Blue Sky at GenreSpace, one word. And you can listen to the first episode of that when it airs June 7th. In the meantime, there's a session 0 up there if you want to kind of get a sense for the game that we're playing, you know, a little bit more about the cast and the world building that we're starting to do. And yeah, that's about it.
It's a lot going on. So thank you so much, Sam. And thank you so much, everyone watching. We will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.